Hello, everybody. My name is Paula Robbins, and I am the founder of Consciouspreneurs International. And I am just beyond honored to be here today with Miss Cynthia James. So thank you so much for joining us. Cynthia, let me just say, you are a woman after my own heart. I love your story. You transcended a childhood of trauma and abuse. You have become one of the world's most inspiring women. You've become such a leader in the consciousness world as a speaker, a teacher, an author. There's so many areas of transformation that you've contributed to. And I just am so, so grateful to have you here. Thank you again for making this time.
I'm honored to be with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So let's go back. Let's start just by kind of laying the groundwork. Coming from a path and transcending trauma and abuse is no small feat. And it's one that I know well. And everybody's got that moment of awakening. When was it for you that you realized, I am not what happened to me, and I am going to transcend this history?
Yeah, relationships have always been a path of discovery for me. And, when I looked back at my history, relationships, I kept kind of repeating my childhood because I didn't know any different. It was familiar. And I was in the middle of, a horrible breakup, and I was depressed and could barely get out of bed. And this woman said to me, you might want to go to this spiritual place and hear this man speak. And it was called guidance. And I somehow got dressed and I walked in, and on the stage, there was a black man that was short with all this energy, speaking with no notes. And he said, you are the captain of your own ship. You create your destiny. Nothing that's ever happened to you can decide how you will live. And I thought, is that real? Is that possible? And so somehow or another, I kept going there on Sundays, and I would take classes, and he had spiritual counselors there. Michael Beckwith was one of them. There are a lot of people there that grew up to be New Thought leaders. But what it did for me was it planted the seed that's a possibility, because I kept thinking, well, if that's true, then I don't have to continue to be abused. I don't have to continue to be in a place of fear and doubt and trepidation and worry that I won't be taken care of. If it's true, then I can turn this around by changing the way I think and the way I perceive things.
I love it. I love it. And it's something that we are seeing more and more of, that kind of awakening, of people really becoming more empowered and clear that I get to choose more of my destiny than I realized. I love it.
Absolutely.
So this could be somewhat of a loaded question, but what has your professional path been? I know that you've done so many things. You have 2 master's degrees in consciousness studies and in spiritual psychology, and so many different professional efforts and areas of leadership. So tell us a little bit about how you began your path professionally as a consciouspreneur, and what has led you up to where you are today.
Well, it's really interesting because I was an actress. I was a full-time actress. I made my living as an actress. And all the time that I was doing that, I didn't know it at the time, but I was creating. I was creating what would become my future. I created a one-woman show because I wanted to show people that there was a path to healing. I created a workshop out of that because when I would travel around the country, people would say, well, can you do something? So I was little bit by little bit, I was writing, people would say, take a workshop, and they go, well, can you give us a book or can you give us some tools? And so then I'd create them. what I realized later is that all these little bits and pieces were to become my business. And I didn't know what I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really know how to run a business, I mean, I created all these products and I'm sure I did it wrong because every marketing person would have said, don't do it that way. But I just wanted to be in service. And so eventually, 6 years ago, I decided to go into a leadership program because I wanted to understand the nuts and bolts of a business, and how to manage my money well, and how to market, and what was sales, because I didn't like the slimy part of selling, but I did want to know how to offer the gifts and the services that I had to people that could use them. So I learned, and it's been a process, and I'm still learning. And now I work with a lot of women to teach them how to build their businesses, and based on all the mistakes I made and all the lessons I learned.
Right. That's quite similar to my story. I absolutely love that you're doing that and supporting others in the path of learning how to not only walk in purpose, but turn that into a path of prosperity and service in the world. I love it. It's beautiful. So you've impacted a lot of people. You've helped so many people. Your walk of service is just beautiful. Can you share with us a story of perhaps somebody that had some of those deeper wounds upon the soul that you were able to walk with and really see their light and transform their walk?
Yeah, I was an associate minister at Mile High Church in Denver, um, and it was before I stepped out to do my own work in the world. And I was speaking, and at the end of my talk, I looked out into the audience, and there was a young woman standing there. She was in her 20s, and she was staring intently at me. And so as I was leaving and I was walking back down the aisle, I said hello to her, and she said hello as she kind of stepped back a little bit. But she kept showing up to my things. And finally, I said, would you like to come and have a conversation? It doesn't cost anything. So she came to my office. I think she was 27 at the time. Mm-hmm. She had been cutting. She had really intense childhood, a mother with mental issues and abuse and alcoholism. There was a lot going on there. She didn't trust anybody. And she says, I don't know why I'm coming to see you because I'm not even sure, what your deal is. Right? But we spent a year of her floating in and out. And we started working on her sadness, the pain that she was having. She wouldn't have relationships because it didn't feel safe because she had been abused. And the interesting thing was, while she was in pain, I use a creativity a lot in my work with people. She finally let me see a book. She had been painting and drawing her pain for years. And it was an exquisite expression of releasing of energy. And so we talked about that and worked on that. Today, she's a doctor. She travels all over the world. And she's an explorer and an adventurer of the heart. She's a seeker. And I feel so honored to know her. When on her first trip overseas, she asked me to hold her book, her art book, so that it was safe until she got back. And I felt like I had a treasure.
Yes. Oh, that is beautiful. What a great story. I'd love to see some of that art. I love it. That's wonderful. So as you walked your journey, what have been one of your more difficult challenges that you've had to overcome? Because you've had quite a journey.
I would say finding my voice.
Mm-hmm.
When you are abused and traumatized as a kid, you learn to keep your head down and your mouth shut, and it was really hard for me because I came on this planet as an expressive. I was always singing and dancing through the house and doing all that stuff, and I had a big mouth and I always asked questions, and it got me in trouble. And so I could notice that, I do a lot of mind body work. And I would notice that at certain times my throat would clench and my jaws would clench. And that it was when I was afraid to speak, or when I thought I was in trouble, or I could be punished. So the jaws would get tight, the throat would clench, and then I'd start to cry. And so it was like, how do I find my voice and let go of the fear of losing people, of losing jobs, of being judged or criticized? And that was a journey. And part of it, I think I started through my journaling, and I think it started through, my father was an alcoholic, so I went to Al-Anon and I learned to talk there. I mean, over time, it was like I took tiny little steps. I'd poke my head out and I'd speak. And today, people don't even believe I used to be that way, because I'm so direct and I'm so, I kind of call things out. Um, but what happened is, one day the switch turned, that I ceased to be afraid, because I knew that I was here with a divine purpose, and that I had a voice, and that I was here to use it. And if I didn't, then I was depriving the people that needed it, and the experiences that needed it, to hear me.
Beautiful. And so, so very true. It's something that I've awakened to many times, and it's evolved many times over the years. And something that's still evolving is learning how to use my voice. So thanks for sharing that. That's absolutely beautiful. So as a woman who works with many people who have businesses, and as a consciouspreneur, with the group of people that I support, other conscious entrepreneurs, what is one of the pieces of advice that you would offer to other entrepreneurs of consciousness?
The first thing I would say is trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
We have a year-long program for women entrepreneurs, and at the beginning of the year, we say, okay, we're going to ask you to trust your process. There's going to be valleys, there's going to be peaks. All you have to do is take one step at a time, and make sure that you have the support that you need. Because a lot of times we try to figure things out in our heads, and we try to do it on our own without somebody who's already been there, who can model it for us, who can guide us. Get the support that you need. I mean, the leaders that I coach, it's like they come because they want to move to the next level, and they realize they've hit a ceiling, and they need someone to help open those portals for them.
I agree entirely. Beautiful. Thank you. So tell us about where you are now. How can those who are watching or listening to our conversation today, what should they know that you're up to right now? How can they find you? How can they connect with you and utilize your services?
Yeah, I'm in a process of reinvention. The COVID has created a space. I closed my in-person office because, people just didn't want to get in cars and go into buildings and things. And so everything's Zoom now. And I work with leaders, and I work with their small to mid-size executive teams, coaching them on conscious leadership and conscious team building. I'm in the middle of creating a portal for women entrepreneurs, and for the people to come and have all kinds of resources for them. My website is cynthiajames.net, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I send it out once a month. And right now, I am doing a once a month conversation with women on what's going on in the world today. People are really not knowing how to deal with isolation, not knowing how to deal with protests, not knowing how to deal with politics. So we come together in a safe environment. I don't record it, and we just talk for 90 minutes, and we get in small groups of like, what are we feeling? What are we thinking? What are we needing? And I feel like women having dialogue and people having dialogue is the healing salve.
Yes, I completely agree. Well, I love all the work that you've done. I love what you're doing. I love how you have so just graciously and beautifully transitioned with all of the change that all of us are experiencing. So I love what you're up to. And, thank you again for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia James. She's easy to find at cynthiajames.net. I will add that link to the video. And I'm so grateful just to have had this time with you and to know you and to see how you walk in the world. You set such an inspiring example for myself and so many others. So again, just thank you for your time today. Truly appreciate it.
And thank you for doing the work that you do in the world and for creating a platform for people.
You bet. Absolutely. It's an honor.